The content within the Med-Surg Moments podcast represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses. On this episode of Med-Surg Moments,
I was a member of AMSN National, and I was going to the national conferences on a regular basis, and I discovered that there was not a local chapter in Chicago. I think I was really kind of irritated when I found out no one had really applied to start a chapter in Chicago.
This is Eric,
Sydney,
Mary Tess,
Neil,
and Laura. Welcome to Med-Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
we're proud Med-Surg nurses just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey.
Your life and experiences as a Med-Surg nurse are not limited to your unit. Our connection to our peers, our contribution to our specialty, and involvement in our communities beyond the hospital walls is a big part of what makes our Med-Surg nursing journey fulfilling.
AMSN chapters are local communities of Med-Surg nurses that truly enrich your nursing journey on both a professional and personal level.
Here with us today to share her nursing journey and the inspiring story of AMSN Chicago chapter number 317 is Cora Palmer.
Cora serves as a staff nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. She's also president and co-founder of AMSN Chicago chapter number 317.
In 2011, Cora was named Magnet Nurse of the Year for Transformational Leadership by the American Nurses Credentialing Center. She is also a past recipient of the AMSN President's Award and CMSRN Award of Distinction. Cora, welcome to Med-Surg Moments.
Thank you.
Tell us about your nursing story, starting with the moment you knew you wanted to become a nurse.
I think I wanted to become a nurse when I was very young in church. My mom was a church nurse, and she used to serve the community and the soup kitchens, and we were very active, our whole family in the church. I've been in the healthcare field since I was 16. So I've always worked candy striper, everything. I've only worked in healthcare. I haven't worked anyplace else since I was 16 and since I was going to high school. I came from a very poor or impoverished family. I thought we were rich because we had 3 meals a day and everything was going well. And I went to a public school, which some people can't believe I went to public school. But my parents didn't have any money. My dad told me if I want to be a nurse, I'll find a way. And he said, you'll find a way. It's 5 of you guys. Daddy has no money. If you really want to go to school, you'll find a way and you'll be able to do it. So I just made my path that way. I was a member of AMSN National, and I was going to the national conferences on a regular basis. And I discovered that there was not a local chapter in Chicago. I think I was really kind of irritated when I found out no one had really applied to start a chapter in Chicago. So I investigated, went to the director of professional practice at Northwestern Memorial, talked to her about the idea, and I got a big buy-in from Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I went from floor to floor, and I was able to get a round table of 12 nurses to join the chapter, not just from Northwestern Memorial, but from Mercy Hospital, U of I. We have representatives from different hospitals in the city of Chicago.
Cora, that's really inspiring listening to you just getting the support from your nursing professional development team, I am inspired. That is my current role right now. And that's inspiring, for you to be the voice and to stand up and speak up for the med-surg nurses. And so I understand that community service is a big part of your chapter. Tell us how that started and the types of volunteer activities the chapter has completed over the years.
There have been a number of volunteer activities. First, I asked for examples from the members of things that they like to be involved in. And we kind of stuck to 3 or 4 different activities. One big thing that I did, I went to the Catholic Charities, and at that time they were doing the soup kitchen, and they were very happy to have nurses join them, which they did not have a lot of. And the nurses really enjoyed joining them, and we continued to service the soup kitchens for a number of years until COVID hit. And then we were unable to participate in that anymore. So between that and the food pantries, different activities like that, it was very inspiring to the nurses. And then we got suggestions for other type volunteer activities. We actually helped the Girl Scouts, and we gave educational activities because a couple of the members were leaders, chapter leaders in the Girl Scouts of America, things like that. So they really enjoyed being able to educate them about health and safety and different things. And then we traveled different areas of the city, and it was all pre-planned, and we were able to connect with a number of different physicians, nurses, other individuals that also wanted to be involved.
I was actually logging my volunteer hours in my organization, and you know how they do a matching contribution? And so I was looking for organizations, and I actually saw AMSN 317 chapter. Does that mean that your chapter is considered a nonprofit organization as well?
It's considered nonprofit. One thing that I did find out through investigating, I wanted to find out how we could get the tax deductible number. And our treasurer, Paula, who has also been with me since the beginning, she investigated it. And then we were able to get that number. But it took a lot of talking to people to really get it done. It's very complicated and complex. And you actually have to file taxes every year, whether you spend money or not. They want to know what you did. They want your bank account. No matter if you only have $50 or $100 in it, what did you do? And did anyone contribute to anything as far as your activities and things like that? That part was a learning process, and we investigated. I also learned at the time, the drug reps, they supported us by providing food, nourishment, things like that. And they gave the nurses lectures. So it was a win-win situation. Once we got our tax number, I was a little bit more cautious with us doing things of that nature so it wouldn't be questioned. So it was a live and learn type situation when we first began. And actually, Marissa was a staff nurse, I believe, at the time. And she's one of the original members that I approached, and she joined us in that initial meeting.
Wow, I can imagine, because I was looking at it, like I said, when I was logging my hours, and I said, that is possible, because I can imagine if, let's say, you're looking for sponsorship or raising for funds, and, you know, like you said, you see it as an opportunity that it's a win-win for those who wanted to sponsor, but also for the nurses as well. But you have to be really careful because there has to be no conflict of interest. But you inspire me just understanding and knowing that this is a possibility that we can help those who wanted to support the nurses, but also for us to be able to really raise funds. I think what I'm trying to get into is putting together a nonprofit organization is another job. Like, it's a huge job. Having a chapter on its own, founding a chapter is already huge, and having another step, that's amazing.
I also found out that working with some of the physicians that I met through connections that did community work, Dr. Shaga, who now is a hospice director, I think, with Vita's Hospice, he actually made rounds with me to nursing homes and to other hospitals, and he lectured on pain, and he never asked for anything in return. He lectured on pain. We had lunch. And it was just like what AMSN strives for, the compassion, commitment, connection. It was all there with different people that we connected with.
That's awesome.
Talk about why your chapter involvement has been so important to you over the years.
I think it's so important because it's actually giving back to the community. That's the number one thing. And the other thing is that it really inspires nurses. I met some nurses at the conference every year who I still communicate with. They had wanted to start chapters. They were kind of like depressed about it almost. So I don't think we could start it in my city. We don't have the support. I would just say you can really be surprised by talking to individuals. There is a lot of support and camaraderie out there. You just have to approach everyone and expect some good and bad outcomes with it.
What factors have contributed to your chapter's success and membership growth?
Nurses wanting to be a part of something. We started out with 15 members before pandemic. We got up to 90. After pandemic, we went back down to anywhere from 10 to 20. And then I found moving forward that what we probably needed to do was to kind of reinvent ourselves. So I kind of brought this idea to the members because Professor Mary McDermott from Loyola University, I met her through one of our chapter members, and she lectured on nursing and the arts. She was very, very into nursing and the arts, what nurses could do. And she went to all of these different museums. She had traveled all over. Long story short, her and I made friends. She's about 20 years older than me. She's retired now. But she was actually on the advisory board of HECTONE, Nurses and the Humanities. HECTONE Nurses and the Humanities provides a grant for nurses to be able to learn about nursing and the arts. In my working with Mary, that has given us extra funds to be able to allow nurses, see, it's all about connections, to allow nurses to come to different activities and things like that during Nurses Week, and it's all covered up under this grant. So it's all about connections.
Wow. Have you noticed any changes once a nurse gets involved with the chapter? Have you seen any types of changes in the nurse?
One of the members that was with us for a little while, this was right after COVID, she just told me that she was going to lie low. It was a lot going on. Her husband was a police officer, and she didn't think that she could be as involved, which was okay, because there's no pressure on anyone to do a number of anything. They are asked to volunteer. There's not a quota on the amount of hours. There's no pushback on creative ideas. If they have something, I usually ask, do you have a plan? If you have a plan, we work from the plan. So we did have some members, and it was right after COVID, that did drop to the wayside. But other members signed up and they wanted to be a part of something. So yeah, there's some momentum to be more involved, and there's some to hold back a little bit because there's so much going on with their personal life. But we still have quite a bit of nurses that are involved. And I do have to say, the connection part with HECTONE and the extra funds that they give for speakers, renting spaces, we are actually having a program at the International Museum of Surgical Science. And that grant is going to cover the nurses coming for free. And that does make a difference. I reached out to the chapters that are in Chicago, Evansville, and Indiana. We sent an email that they were welcome to stop by and come if they wanted to, because everything was covered as far as admission up under this grant. So it works both ways, and everything is always changing. We just accept the help when we get it, and when we don't, we try to think creatively of how we can do things better. Our local dues have always been $30 since the beginning. We have not increased or decreased anything. So if you want to be a local member, it's $30 a year, which is nothing. And then every year they pay $30 and we put it in the kitty, and we use that just in case we need to cover any little expenses.
I think that's really awesome. And it's really inspiring because I was kind of excited to hear your take on everything and your story. because I've been really thinking about starting a chapter. I thought it'd be really neat or just kind of nice to have a chapter in my area. But every time I look up everything, it's so intimidating. It seems like so much work. I'm always afraid of not getting involvement or getting support from others. So it's nice that you say that there's kind of this network that you can kind of find and it'll kind of find you.
There are certain people that have skills. The nurses that are younger or that are online a lot, they're the ones who do the newsletter. They're the ones who set up our website, things like that. So whatever their skills in and that they bring to the table, they jump on it and they say, I want to do so-and-so, so-and-so. I said, that's good. That's good. Just write up a plan of what you want to do and we'd love to have you. So that's wonderful. So those nurses jump in that way. Paula's been our treasurer since the beginning. She's excellent with the money market part, not so good with people, but she's excellent with the money market part. And she does good at keeping us the checks and the balances. And I'm not, believe it or not, really an outgoing person. This has kind of pulled me out of my shell a little bit more with doing this.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure Chicago thanks you as well.
You're really very transformational. Just listening to you, you can see their potentials and you're bringing out the best in them. That's your superpower, Miss Cora. I can tell.
Well, I try. A few of them, as we move forward, they've gotten married and have children. They may not be able to participate in a lot of things personally, but they're able to do a lot online. They're able to make up flyers. They're able to do marketing on Facebook. Anything that we need to get the word out, they're able to do that. Because we work with the Kindness Campaign, which is really being in Chicago. I got connected with them and I'm on their board. And they go around and they feed the homeless up under the viaducts in Chicago. They do a lot of stuff. So I've gotten the members involved in that. And the president and the founder of Kindness Campaign, I actually met him through the director of professional practice at Northwestern. And then him and I connected. So now I'm on his board.
That's awesome. I keep hearing about hospital involvement. So I'm really very interested because it sounds like AMSN Chicago chapter tend to be hospital-based, like most of your members, if that is correct. So I'm guessing the continuing support of your hospital is pretty important. How do you maintain hospital buy-in year to year?
You only need a meeting room. That's basically what you need. They don't have a lot of funds or they don't want to advertise financial support. But what they do, if you want to have a meeting, as long as you're an employee, you can reserve a room, you can have a meeting. And then we've had a few times where members were bringing refreshments and the director or one of the managers on the floor said, do you need anything? Do you want us to bring water? Blah, blah, blah. And I had a really ugly igloo that someone had donated to us. I would clean up. People started cleaning it up for me, taking it to their house. They would bring water. They would bring juice and put in there. I'll tell you, I probably got a big buy-in and everything was kind of tight because in the beginning, we were going for our magnet status. So this looked great in the magnet document. It looked great. And I got more buy-in along with that too. So it just so happens that some things just happen and we were in the right place at the right time, things like that. And it's not only Northwestern, other hospitals do too. U of I, we've had a couple of members from there. We've had meetings on their site. We've had meetings at Rush. So it's not just one hospital. And we had meetings at Mercy Hospital in Chicago when it was in existence. But we just came and we brought the speaker. We had meetings. And then at that time, their educational department provided C&E. Right now, we don't have the C&E unless it's on site at Northwestern, but people still come to the events. They still come because now you can get your C&Es online and they come for the networking and stuff.
And I guess meeting people like you, I mean, I would go. Even there's no CE, I'll be inspired and just being there with the energy of the group. That's a win for me. If I'm in Chicago, I'll be there tomorrow. So I might see you. I'll drop by. Hi.
Cora, right now, you're speaking to Med-Surg nurses across the country and around the world. Above all else, what would you say the most personally rewarding aspect of chapter involvement is? Is there a particular moment or story that comes to mind?
Yes, I think when we really got going, I wanted to see what we could do to kind of make sure we were connecting with AMSN's long-term goal and about certification and things like that. I did a project, and I had never did a project before internal, but I named it the Road to Certification. And basically what I did was I outlined, and I got 2 other nurses on this committee with me, and we outlined the road to certification. I had a few educators from across the country, from AMSN, and they came and they talked about different things. And then I actually got administration to connect with AMSN's national office, and we had them come on site to give the certification review course. The financial piece of that was worked out with the director of professional practice, because she asked me, what do you think we could do to get more nurses involved? I said, you need to offer them a review course. That's what they need. It needs to be offered in Chicago, and here's the phone number for AMSN if you guys can work that out. And so we had speakers come from the national office, and they came and they gave the certification review course. We got more nurses certified. We were into our second magnet certification, and the certification actually went from 10 to about over 40 or 50. So they were like really happy percentage-wide that everything was like connecting. I was very happy with that. The only thing that I've been unhappy with it is it needed to be more of a connection so that people know that you need to keep your certification up. So the education piece around that wasn't as fine-tuned as it should have been. It's a little bit better now, but I don't think the nurses knew how important it was just to keep it up. And I would bring up to them, this is not just about Northwestern, this is about your nursing career. As you move on, you can go to any city and the certification will be recognized. So you need to think about that. You get it here, you have it forever. You just keep it up with contact hours. So that education piece was a big piece that needs to be reinforced. But I was pretty happy about that, and just happy about the nurses participating and helping the public in general.
What additional advice, tips, or wisdom would you share with our listeners out there thinking about starting or joining an AMSN chapter, Cora?
I would say the national office now, because it's restructured and it's revitalizing itself, I would just say to them, do not give up, but you have to have a passion for it. Do not give up. If you want to do it, they're going to come up with a handbook to kind of help chapters as they grow. There are some chapters out there that we had a meeting online that a few of the officers are thinking about closing the chapter. And I think we're going to look at more like not talking about closing a chapter, but how can we help them to succeed and revitalize themselves. So just to say, AMSN is reinventing itself, and that we need to look and see how we can get more support from the national office.
Cora, I do have a follow-up question on that. Is there a fee to start up a chapter, or do you need a certain number of members before you can establish a chapter? I wasn't sure if there are certain requirements.
You know, it's been so long since I started. I remember with the chapter handbook, and Cora was our chapter liaison. We only needed like 8 at the time, and we had like 12. There was no fee. We just had to have so many meetings a year, and that was like 2 to 3, where we got together, had meeting notes. We do a chapter report that's required every year that you turn in, and you list your chapter activities and the officers and your bank account and all the information. There's a formal form, which is not hard to complete. So there was no fee because you're volunteering and you're doing the chapter part. I think where people are having a problem, they need to get more time-sensitive information on how do you start a chapter, this is the support system, and this is where you can go for help. And my understanding is that AMSN is kind of like rebirthing themselves so that they can support the chapter more in other ways. So just stay tuned. There's going to be more about it. I have ran into a couple of officers at the chapter breakfast that have said, how do we get this not-for-profit? How do we do this? How do we do that? I've ran into people that have said that, and I've referred them to Paula, and Paula has followed up with them. And I also told them, as AMSN is reorganizing itself a little bit more and being more supportive, they're going to have all that in a handbook. So I would just say, if you're planning on starting a chapter, do it. Get a couple of compassionate people to be with you that are passionate about doing this, and just start slowly. Things just happen for us. I never intended for it to get this big. I never intended for us to have so many members. And then try to think out of the box, because now that we're joined with HECTO Nurses and the Humanities in a more of a connection type thing, there's our extra funds and things out there. And maybe we can also join forces with others. Nothing out there saying that you cannot. So it's something to think about.
That's truly inspiring.
I feel the same there, Tess, because I really wanted to get one going, and I was really excited to hear. It seems so intimidating or daunting, because I work full time, and I think, is this another full-time job? But it takes a village, right? So if you get a good amount of people or some good support, you can really get this thing going.
And
thank you, Cora.
You're welcome. You have to remember too, I actually came to Northwestern as an agency nurse, and then I came on staff. And I wasn't a popular person, meaning some people come in and, oh, everybody knows them. They didn't. But I was so driven by the fact that no one wanted to volunteer to start a chapter, because it meant you had to do this volunteer work. It was almost driving me crazy, because I wanted nursing to be represented in a better light. So if you're thinking about doing that, I would say start it. And just start on a small level and see where it takes you and get members.
Great advice, because I'm popular, I'm just not driven. So now I need to tweak that little part of your story. But I think that's fabulous advice, and I'm really excited. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to cheer for you, Eric. Go, Eric. You got this.
Eric, you're going to have the biggest chapter of all.
Well, it'd just be nice. I figured if Cora just actually came over here and helped me do it. She already seems to have the blueprint down.
Well, Cora, it's truly been an honor and an inspiration to have you with us on this episode of Med-Surg Moments.
Thank you.
To our listeners, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of Med-Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
In the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe to Med-Surg Moments wherever you listen to podcasts.
To reach us, use hashtag Med-Surg Moments on your social posts.
Or send us an email at amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org.
We're all AMSN members, and if you love Med-Surg Moments, we invite you to become a member of AMSN. You can learn more at www.amsn.org.
Finally, the content within the Med-Surg Moments podcast represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses.
Until next time, this is Neil,
Laura,
Mary Tess,
and Eric. And always remember, Med-Surg Moments is a moment in our lives and a moment in our Med-Surg careers that make a huge difference.